In The Wire, we follow the institutions and the bureaucracies that allow the Baltimore drug trade to thrive and flow. David Simon's show is a cynical critique of such systems, these systems which crush the individual, punish agents of change, and reduce the most promising of characters to pitiful ends. When it comes to individuals, though, The Wire can be a lot more hopeful, allowing for good endings to difficult storylines, such as that of Bubbles, who is able to finally climb those stairs and join his family after such pain throughout the show. The show also offers warm, small moments of humanity between characters, where people choose not to follow the status quo and follow the system, instead choosing to do the right thing instead of, say, the easy thing. Today, I wanted to count down 7 of the best character moments in the show, decisions that characters chose to make where they otherwise could have chosen not to, the top 7 most noble moments in The Wire. Originally, this list was a lot longer, but the video has ended up pretty long, so I decided to cut it down some. Some honourable mentions of honourable moments which could have made the list are when Herc stops to talk with Bodhi's grandmother in season 1 after the cops raid her house, Daniel's retaining his integrity in season 5 by refusing to juke the stats when Cutty pushes him to do so and he instead resigns, Carver making a last-ditch effort to save Randy from the group home by offering to adopt him, the effort Presbalewski makes with Dookie, the journalist from season 5 getting Bubbles' okay before publishing his story, and Otto from season 2 stepping down in honour of Frank Sobotka. Let me know what honourable mentions from the show you think are worth mentioning, and be sure to subscribe to the channel for more videos on The Wire. Number 7. Slim and Cutty's honesty and Avon letting Cutty go. So with this one, the nobility comes from all 3 characters in the scene. Slim and Cutty are sent to kill some of Marlo's people, but they fail to do proper damage as Cutty seizes up, realizing mid-hit that the game isn't in him anymore. When the duo report back to Avon, Slim blames himself for opening up too early. Either he knew Cutty was at fault and took the heat, maybe thinking Cutty was rusty and needed time adjusting to the game now that he was out of prison after a decade, or he genuinely thought he was at fault. Either way, it's commendable for him to step up and say it was his fault. And then Cutty steps in, admitting he was at fault when he could have easily remained silent, opening up further about how much the game is past him and he has no place in it anymore. He trusts Avon and Slim enough to tell the truth, and the icing on the cake of this scene is Avon's reaction, patiently hearing Cutty out, this man who he needs in his war, who he had so much potential for at a time when Avon's best soldiers were locked up or dead. But he sees in the man's eyes that he speaks the truth, that the game ain't in him anymore, and he lets him go, lets him walk away. No payment needed, no bullet in the head, no get back out there. He doesn't even ask him to wait until the war's over. Avon knew what needed doing, and on top of that, he calls him a man after he's walked out. Even Cutty looks shocked that he's simply allowed to walk away. You can't imagine Marlo letting someone go like that. And it's a testament to Avon's integrity, sense of honour, and his respect for Cutty, and in general his respect for people who stand up for themselves and are straight and true about what they are. String a bell. Number 6. Avon giving Cutty the cash for the gym. Sticking with Cutty's arc, when Dennis starts a gym, he needs cash for new equipment for the kids, and he goes to Avon and goes through a sales pitch involving trying to tempt Avon to give him cash by saying he can put his photo up on the gym wall, an idea which Avon shoots down. When Cutty mumbles that he's looking for $10,000, there is a pause before Avon and Slim chuckle and jab at Cutty for going through all of that for $10,000, and Avon then tells Slim to give Cutty $15,000 cash, hugging Cutty and telling him to look after the kids. Again, a showcase of Avon's humanity. You could argue Cutty had some nerve to be given ample chance to get back into the game and not only walk away from the game unscathed, but to come back and ask his former boss for money. Of course, Avon is very much part of the culture which destroys Baltimore neighborhoods and ruins the lives of countless with the drug trade. But this is an example of how a person involved in such affairs can give back to the community in some ways. In fact, in ways that wouldn't be possible via legitimate methods, because there's no way Cutty was going to get $10,000 from average Baltimore citizens. He struggled to get permits from the churches and courthouses and such, only succeeding because the deacon had contacts. And for the cash, he'd have to apply for grants and loans and whatnot, but instead goes to a drug dealer and gets it instantly, plus more. For Avon, the money might not be a big deal, but Cutty's gym is still thriving in season 5 and beyond. Again, we have to ask ourselves, would we see a guy like Marlo do something similar? Unlikely. Number 5, Slim Charles killing Cheese. Cheese is Proposition Joe's wayward nephew, who sells out his uncle to the vicious Marlo, who also betrays Joe after he mentored him and showed him the ropes on how to be a successful drug kingpin. Before Joe died, he heavily suspects Cheese and tells his number 2 Slim Charles to watch him. Fast forward to when Marlo is out of the game and the co-op are trying to raise enough cash to buy the Connect from Marlo. Cheese says he is able to come up with the remainder of the cash that the co-op needs, and having been previously told by Joe that Cheese flashes his cash, this is the proof Slim needs to kill Cheese, which he does. Not to mention, Cheese pointed a gun at a senior member of the co-op, the kind of behavior that the co-op does not want to see anymore after the dictatorship-like reign of Marlo. That was for Joe, as Slim says, when he is questioned why he popped Cheese. He put the money to a side, the non-violent modern ways of the co-op to a side, and like those old westerns, he had a score to settle, a punishment to dish out against a guy who betrayed his uncle and thought he got away with it. Slim's sentimental sense of honor and loyalty put aside any business ambitions and goals he had here, to give Joe's memory that much more peace to know he hadn't been forgotten and had been avenged, even though the co-op needed the money at the time. Number 4, Carver deciding to write up Colicchio. One of the best character arcs on the show belongs to Carver, the officer who started off as a knucklehead alongside Herc as a dynamic duo. In fact, in many ways, he's worse than Herc in the beginning, as Herc had a few good moments, like when he stops to talk to Bodhi's grandmother, or lectures the new cops at the end of season 1. Carver spies on behalf of Burrell on his own detail, steals money from drug raids, and doesn't seem like the most intellectual powerhouse of a character around. However, after guidance from the likes of Daniels and Bunny Colvin, advice which resonates with Carver where it doesn't with others, he sees that the Western District way, the bashing heads and keeping the hoppers in line way of doing things, is defunct and self-perpetuating. He tries to become part of the community, helping kids set up a basketball hoop, for example, and sending them to Cutty's gym for training. He was a believer in Bunny's Amsterdam experiment, and one of Carver's greatest personal moments is when he decides to write up the out-of-control Colicchio, who beat up a teacher after being embarrassed by some young hoppers. Carver berates Colicchio, but in typical Baltimore PD style, he offers the man a cover story. But when Colicchio doubles down and says he was in the right, Carver looks around at the silent officers and decides enough is enough and does the right thing. The difficult thing, the thing that might make others think of him as a rat, a snake, someone who doesn't look after his own, but in this moment, he was willing to take that. He does it for the betterment of the force and for Baltimore policing as a whole, at the risk of his personal reputation with the men he drinks with and hangs around with. Carver is really one of the more fascinating characters in the show. Here he offers Colicchio an out, the same treatment Daniels gave to him and Herc when they went into the terrace at 2 a.m. and caused trouble. But they were at least gracious enough to know they were in the wrong. But Colicchio decides to idiotically bite the hand that feeds him. It shows Carver how far things have gone in the Western, that officers are now thugs parading the streets, and this is a small step in changing the way things are done, changing the war zone soldier mentality that Western District coppers have. Number 3, Rawls consoling McNulty. When Kima goes undercover and is shot in season 1, it feels like the entire Baltimore Police Department arrives to take action. McNulty is obviously devastated, covered in Kima's blood, blaming himself for her having to fight for her life. Rawls utterly despises McNulty for the way he shows him up and doesn't toe the line, but we see a different side to him in the episode The Hunt, where he proves he is natural police by taking complete charge of the crime scene and noticing the street signs have been swapped, something only a former ground level police officer with experience on the streets could have worked out. I've discussed this more in my video Why You're Wrong About Rawls, but Bill Rawls goes a step further by taking McNulty to a side, McNulty who is at his lowest moment in the show, and picks him back up by telling him the situation is not his fault, and he does so in his own way, beginning one of the most compassionate monologues in the series with the words, "Listen to me, you asshole," and calling McNulty a gaping asshole, and we all know Rawls loves a good gaping asshole. In fact, Rawls probably went out of his way to use profanity, to berate McNulty before comforting him, to show him his words here are real and not empty comfort. He knows how to get to McNulty. He means what he says and would be the first person to tell McNulty if Kima's shooting was his fault. A lesser show would have had Rawls become sentimental, showing he was a cuddly teddy bear underneath his hardcore persona. But he doesn't break that persona here and is still able to get his point across, lifting the burden from McNulty when he could have ended him right there. Number 2. Wee-Bey letting his son get out of the game. Wee-Bey is one of the most terrifying hitters in the show, effortlessly killing when he's instructed to and copping to numerous murders at the end of season 1 to land himself with life imprisonment. His son Namond endeavours to follow in his father's footsteps and become a Barksdale soldier, pushed by his mother, but Namond falls short. He just isn't made for the game and is lucky that Bunny Colvin takes a liking to him and begins mentoring him. Namond has the best ending out of any of the Boys of Summer, and that's partly because of Bunny being able to persuade Wee-Bey to let go of his son and allow him to adopt him. It's a huge moment for Wee-Bey. "You asking too much," as he says. The game is everything. To see his son do him proud and become a strong soldier as he was his only hope left in life. And Bunny's ability to talk to Wee-Bey as a person, not as an inmate, but as an equal, a man who offers Wee-Bey's son a life neither Bey nor Colvin had growing up, to become successful, educated, and to make a difference in the world, is something Wee-Bey eventually agrees to. There was nothing stopping Wee-Bey from rejecting Colvin's request, to say, "No, my son will become a soldier like me." But he agreed to make this decision, which kind of went against all his values and the things he found important. And finally, at number 1, Landsman lets Bubbles off the hook. In season 4, Bubbles finds himself terrorized by a thief who beats him and steals his hard-earned money. He has tried going through legitimate means to keep the fiend off his back, but the cops, Herc in particular, are no help. So Bubbles, pushed to the brink, decides to take drastic measures. He concocts a hotshot which he plans for the assault to steal, but unfortunately for him, the young man Sherrod, who he mentors, drinks it and dies. Bubbles is so devastated and grief-stricken, he hands himself in, an easy score for the Baltimore PD to up their clearance rate slightly. But after being puked on by Bubbles, having a quick giggle to himself seeing the "Rawls sucks cock" graffiti, Jay Landsman walks in to find Bubbles has hung himself, saving him just in time, and after a talk with Bubbles, Landsman shuffles his way to Ed Norris and tells him to throw this one back. As he says, "Fuck the clearance." And this is coming just after the episode where he demands Freeman doesn't open up the vacants for the sake of the clearance. Just like with Wee-Bey letting his son go, Landsman here is doing the right thing at the expense of the thing he wants and believes in. It's such a great scene. Even seeing these two characters who seem like from different worlds sitting side by side. Landsman, the bog standard middle management company man who has always toed the line, been subservient to his bosses and kept a strict watchful eye on the clearance rate, has his humanity overtake him here in this small unexpected moment. He could have sent Bubbles away for decades. It's every cop's dream, a man walking into the station and making a full confession. This poor guy who has hit rock bottom and has nothing going his way. And it's Jay's decision here, which actually in a way kickstarts Bubbles' redemption arc. Just someone showing a little bit of humanity and empathy. Bubbles' sincerity and his speech clearly resonated with Jay, and even more so with us, as we know his story, know how his addiction caused him to have killed his relationship with his son, and now he has caused the death of his surrogate son, so to speak. But Jay doesn't see any of that. He just sees a man in deep pain, and it speaks to him. There's no trademark jokes, sarcasm, or witty remarks, just a little nudge to bend the system and do the decent thing, to hand Bubbles a rope which he uses to climb those stairs in season 5 and sit with his family, and it's one of my favourite scenes in the entire show. Landsman may have even read Bubbles' story after it gets published in the papers in season 5, allowing him to feel rewarded for his actions and pleased for Bubbles' redemption. So there you have it. Let me know what your own list looks like down in the comment section below, and thanks for watching.